Hi there, welcome to the Perfume Experience. My name is Rodney and we are back again with another video. This time we are going to review certain fragrances from the house of Alternate Fragrances, or popularly known for Dinesh Kapoor house of fragrances. So, on that note, let's get started. So recently I got about 5 fragrances from their house. So I have kept 3 of them here for this particular review because these 3 are private blends. The other 2 are inspired clones, right? So the first fragrance here is called Clean Cut. Now this is a vintage barbershop kind of a fragrance from the house of DK. Now this was a nostalgic kind of fragrance. This is something that you might be able to recollect, you might be able to connect to, especially on the fragrances that you smell or the scents that you smell in a barbershop where after somebody's got a clean shave, the aftershave that you put on, that is what is going to remind you of. Now, but I would like to say that having said that this is a vintage barbershop fragrance, this kind of smells a very gentlemanly, boozy, spicy, that kind of a fragrance. Okay, so it's got notes of lavender, it's got yang yang, it's got things like musk, it's got woody notes, but I also feel that there is a little bit of a boozy element that you get, and it's that classic musky gentleman kind of a fragrance. Okay, nice performance on this one. You easily get about 6 hours at least on skin, and after that it becomes a little lighter, but on apparel you can easily get about 8 to 10 hours. So a couple of times when I've tried it at night and a couple of times during the day, the scent performance has been good. So one of the things that you can easily get is that it projects well, and it immediately fills up the room wherever you are. When you sprayed it for at least for the first 45 minutes to 1 hour, it definitely projects well, and it's got a good juice color, good fragrance. If you've been wanting a classic fragrance like a old school gentleman's fragrance without breaking your bank, then you can definitely consider this. The one resemblance that I can think of on a fragrance like this is something like YSL M7, which is again an old school gentleman fragrance, which has got strong tones of amber, musk, light hints of spices, that kind of thing. So although this has got lavender and it's got tobacco and all of that, but it's that musky ambery feeling is what you get, and it's a very nice fragrance to have, a classic from the house of DK. This is called Clean Cut. The second fragrance that I want to review is called Woods and Musk. This is a limited edition fragrance from the house of DK again. Now this, as the notes or the name says, it's a woody, musky kind of a fragrance. I was not able to get the complete list of notes on this particular one, but I'll tell you what this immediately smells like. Okay, now this was pleasantly surprising for me, because when you read Woods and Musk, you're thinking, okay, this would be like a very woody fragrance with slight elements of musk, but actually not. Okay, the woody notes are very they come in a much later time. It opens up with musky element, but the immediate note that you can think of is it's got a note which is not sweet, not amber, and it's something very different. If I can connect my thoughts to this particular note, I was thinking of Dear Fahrenheit's Gasoline. Okay, now that is the way I would want to define it, because there is some element which is very different about this particular fragrance, and in a nice way. Okay, so can become a fragrance where you might have a love-hate relationship. So I'm guessing that people who kind of like to try different fragrances, or who have liked Dior Fahrenheit, you might have a tendency to like this, but somebody else might not. So this is definitely something that would be an acquired taste. You might want to try it before you get the whole bottle of it. Now after a few minutes on this particular fragrance, it opens up to the the dry down. Now the dry down is where the woody notes come into picture. You get that light powdery woody scent going through, and that continues for quite some time. This also has got good performance. You get about, at least on my skin, I was able to get about 5 hours. On apparel, a little more, I would say about 7 hours. But if you want to try a slightly different kind of a woody fragrance, okay, you can definitely try this. This is Wood and Musk. Now again, like I said, that initial note is very different. Okay, so in my thought, it was definitely gasoline, or the word of gasoline associated with Dear Fahrenheit is something that I was thinking, but I kind of like this one in spite of the different opening. So good fragrance. This is Wooden Mask from DK. The third one on this list is a very sought after one. This is called Gulkand, and this is Perfume artisanal. Okay, so I mean it's an artisanal fragrance, so to say. That means they've inspired to look at doing something which is a little niche, and I can say this is it. So, but the name says Gulkand, so the first thing that's running in your head is you're thinking about that sweet, rosy, sugary kind of fragrance. But you will be disappointed. It is not that, okay? But in fact, it is something else altogether. It is a light, dry rose, okay, with a very dry, light sandalwood. Okay, and of course, it's got other notes as well. But these are two predominant things this in this particular fragrance. And what this does is it causes it's a blend that comes together with a dry rose, okay, and that light woodiness, okay, and both are not like amped up versions, both are very mild versions. So what you get is like a very nice light rosy, light woody kind of a fragrance with slight hints of musk, okay. Now, why I say musk is because when the combination of the dry rose along with the dry woodiness happens, it brings a different note profile, which is a light musky in the air, okay? And that is the kind of note this is going for. And you can safely wear this. This is not going to be inoffensive. This is very clean, very decent to wear in any occasion that you would like to, especially if you think about maybe a temple visit or maybe a prayer or, something like that where you're feeling yourself like a very divine kind of thing, and then this is the kind of fragrance that you would want to try, because this is very light, very very lightly musky, very frail in that kind of a scenario. And it's not something which will do bounce and leaps of projection. No, it's more of a very beautiful aura that builds around you. But I think that's another reason why this is so popular among people. I think this is one of their hot selling fragrances, because this is something that you would have smelled very unique. Now I must say this, that all three fragrances which are there from DK's have got an element which is unique. Okay, so they are not your typical private blends that you see, which is mixed. There is some thought that's gone into the note blends, though while their notes are slightly minimalistic in nature, but I think what they bring out something is very, very different. Like Wooden Musk will bring you a note which you would not expect at all from that particular name of that blend. Similarly, Gulkand, in my head, it was like, okay, it's going to be this jammy, sugary, rosy kind of a fragrance which will remind you of any of the other rose wood combination, but it's not. It's in fact it's a very light take on the wood and the rose fragrance. Think about dry rose petals and then dry flakes of sandalwood. That is what this particular fragrance is going for. Very clean, very neat fragrances. So definitely surprising fragrances. Now if you were looking for more jammy, rosy kind of a fragrance, then you might want to consider the Oud Satin Mood from them. This I did get because I wanted to get a whiff of how MFK's Oud Satin Mood is, and in this the rose is jammy, sweet, that kind of a note which is very different. So while both of them have got roses and woody tones, this has got oud, but this is a very different type of a rose. This is very different as well. So so somebody who likes rosy fragrances or rose wood or rose and oud kind of a combination, you can definitely consider this. Now in terms of performance on Gulkand, I can easily get about 5 to 6 hours. Okay, on this is on my skin, and apparel you can get about a couple of more hours. So Gulkand performs decently well, but like I said, it's not a very loud projecting kind of a fragrance. It's more of a bubble around you. So that is something that you got to remember when you pick up Gulkand. Now just to summarize again, in terms of the performance for Wooden Musk, this is also a nice fragrance. This actually has got good projection, and while the performance is similar in terms of 5 to 6 hours, but I think on apparel a little longer, but this has got good projection. But the beast mode projection definitely, of course, in terms of performance is clean cut. So if you've been looking for a very strong, bold, loud kind of a fragrance, this is it. Okay, so this is in terms of performance. So these are my first impressions and a quick review of DK's line of 3 fragrances from this private blend. So if you've been looking for a gentleman's classic vintage spicy ambery musky kind of a fragrance, definitely consider Clean Cut. If you've been wanting a light woody fragrance but with slight hints of musk, but a very different kind of a fragrance which comes down to powdery, dry down, and a very nice fragrance at that, consider Wood and Musk. And of course, if you've been looking for a dry rose, dry sandalwood, flaky kind of a fragrance with light, muskiness, definitely consider Gulkand. So these are 3 from the house of DK, and all of them are sub 1000 rupees for 50 ml, and they come in these beautiful bottles, good presentation, and nicely done. So these are from the house of DK, private blends. And if you like the content that I bring, please like and subscribe, and I will be bringing more reviews of private blends from other houses as well. So stay tuned, keep watching, take care, bye.